Good evening, welcome to Estrategias Militares. We are live right now, April 16th, 2026. The war continues. There is high pressure on leaders in Israel and the United States to seek a ceasefire that would buy time, not to end the war, but to gain time for what we've been announcing. The arrival of the final move, the final step to defeat Iran. Everything is on the table right now. Everything is happening, folks. This is Estrategias Militares. Let's get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Estrategias Militares. It's 1:02 in Spain. It's already the 16th in Spain. We didn't do a show on the 15th, and we're starting this 160 minutes into the 16th. Why? Because so many things have happened on April 15th that we practically need 24 hours to understand and analyze and not make mistakes in the calculations we're making. Welcome to Estrategias Militares. Thank you very much. Really, you all love the intro music. I do too. It's one of my favorites, and I think it reflects well the situation we're in. War, epic fury. I would call it epic war. That's the epic war. Israel has been fighting in Lebanon for several weeks now, with 5 divisions, no less than 5 divisions right now fighting inside Lebanon, with the Air Force, with the Navy supporting, house to house, and today we're going to see some incredible images. Also, we have an exclusive about Hezbollah's use of field artillery. That's what you're hearing. Hezbollah is showing us for the first time bunkers with artillery pieces, artillery made in Russia or China, fighting at northern Israel. Tremendous. Against civilians. In northern Israel, civilians. Meanwhile, there are people in some countries downplaying the role of Israel. We also have, and pay attention to this, new images of the Pope, new statements, new stories about Leo XIV, who has arrived in Cameroon. Let's hope that his arrival in Cameroon, in Africa, means that someone will inform him that there are persecutions of Christians in Africa and that the church must take immediate action to protect the Christian community in Nigeria, in Niger, and throughout Africa. Sudan, nor a bunch of countries where Christians are being persecuted day in and day out. Things you can't truly understand. How can we be so worried about what's happening in Lebanon, about what's happening in Iran, but barely concerned about what's happening in Africa? Africa, that great forgotten colonial disaster of so many countries. And without a doubt, it poses a risk to global security in the future. Welcome to Estrategias Militares family. You already know that if you like the content, paypal.me/Estrategias Militares is our PayPal. Thank you for those PayPals you send us. Really, thank you so much for that great support. You also have Superchats open for comments. Today, we're going to use Superchat to see community comments. What are you thinking? What do you believe all this is about? The day started as follows. Let's start off easy. Or not. The day started like this. Media outlets close to Iran and Hezbollah are talking about an imminent ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, between Israel and Hezbollah. Iran has leaked that for a new round of negotiations between the United States and Iran to take place, there must be a complete ceasefire in Lebanon. And in fact, today, precisely today, Iran arrived. The delegation from Pakistan. Commander Campo Munir embracing Arazi. It seems like something is happening behind the scenes between Pakistan and Iran. Something is going on. But there's much more. Much, much more. Pay attention to the video. An F-4 airplane from Iran, flying over Tehran. An F-4 plane. An Iranian fighter jet flying over Tehran. It hasn't been the only one. A MiG-29 was also seen escorting the Pakistani delegation upon their arrival in Iran. Donald Trump said, and is still telling Syria as well, that Iran's air force has been destroyed. Well, at least, man, they still have 2 planes left. So it hasn't been fully destroyed. First, bad news for the United States and its propaganda, war propaganda, just like everyone else has. And in that narrative, obviously, the fact that there are still fighter jets flying in Iran, it poses a problem. A problem because then there is no complete control of the skies. They still have some capability, very limited, of course, very limited in the air, but that propaganda factor, we've destroyed their navy, their air force, their radars, and their army is no longer believable. It's not believable, but what is believable or was believable? And now we're going to look at the analysis of how the naval blockade went today. We're going to start getting used to doing live broadcasts at night. I'm letting you know now, start adjusting your schedules because we're going to start at night to analyze everything that happens during the day. Naval blockade. Let's listen. We're listening to audio.
The U.S. has announced a formal blockade of Iranian ports and coastal areas. This is illegal action. All vessels are advised to return to port immediately if departing and discontinue transit to Iran if that is their next port of call. Do not attempt to breach the blockade. Vessels transiting to or from an Iranian port will be boarded for interdiction and seizure. Turn around and prepare to be boarded. If you don't comply with this blockade, we will use force. The entire United States Navy is prepared to enforce compliance. The U.S. has announced a formal blockade of Iranian ports.
This is the radio message on Channel 16 in the Persian Gulf area in the Strait of Hormuz from a destroyer of the United States Navy with the following message. Let's listen to it. The United States has announced a formal blockade of Iran's ports and coastal areas. This is a legal action. All vessels are advised to return to port immediately if they are departing and to suspend transit to Iran if that is their next port of call. Do not attempt to violate the blockade. Vessels will be boarded for interdiction and seizure if they transit to or from an Iranian port. Turn around or prepare to be boarded If you do not comply with the blockade, we will use force. The entire United States Navy is ready to enforce compliance. Out. Out. Over and out. Strait of Hormuz. What's going on over there? What's happening? Last night we went over some important names. We sure did. Because today we have news. What has happened over there? What has occurred? Alicia, not Alice in Wonderland. The supertanker Alicia it was waiting to enter. It has entered. The oil tanker Alicia, which we saw last night, which is sanctioned by the United States of America, has broken through the entry blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. Alicia has followed the route. The route created by Iran. You remember the depth we saw yesterday, right? It used that small channel in the sea to pass Larak Island and pay the toll. There it is. Full speed ahead. Using the protection of the Revolutionary Guard, has been moving farther in, sticking close to the coast, close to the islands, farther into the Persian Gulf. It stays near the Iranian coast. He doesn't want to be attacked. Alicia is heading toward Karm Island. Eleven knots. "20 kilometers per hour. That's how Alicia is moving right now, heading north. And knot is not the only one. Another one that has escaped. Here you are. Here you are. Another one has escaped him too. There we can see it. The next ship has also slipped through the inbound blockade, not the outbound one. Inbound. Course. Karm Island. And it's practically going side by side. Agios and Alicia. One in front leading the convoy, the other behind. Who else do we have around here? Murlikishan. Murlikishan has also slipped through. He already entered the day before. And he's heading towards Karm Island. Right now, we could have 1, 2, 3, 4, and up to 5 oil tankers heading to Karm Island. We talked about Arechel last night. That ship that they've changed the name of. It has also crossed. From the anchorage area of Oman, it headed north, right along the coast of Iran. And it started to enter. Richie Stark. Richie Starry. What's going on with Richie? Richie is loaded. It's waiting to leave. Richie Starry is waiting to go out, but he can't go out. Another one who's also waiting to go out, it's Serenity. It's next to the Iranian coast and Oceana K. Also, they're small. These are small. Nobler. Where is Nobler from? Let's find out, because this is super important. Take notice. I think we could say that the strategy might be let them in, but not let them out. Well, look. Nobler. Nobler has crossed through the area. And now he's leaving. He has paid the toll. Nobler has paid the toll right there. Let's see if Nobler is under any sanctions. Bahamas flag. Looking for information. There is no public evidence that it is under sanctions. Declare destination Oman. Let's see where this ship took on cargo. In the last few months. It's interesting to see these things. I want to confess to you, I am right now I'm really into this because the subject of ships really interests me. I find this whole story interesting, what it's like and how it can load. What capacity this ship has? 20,000 tons of liquid cargo. How many barrels is that? How many barrels of oil can it carry? No, it's not very big. It's not very big. 150,000 barrels. But from the information we're getting here, it seems that this tanker, this small tanker, it doesn't usually load in Iran. It has been in Oman, the United Arab Emirates, and Iraq. It's been in India and Turkey. It has been in China. Suez Canal. But no, it has been in Iran. So we might think that maybe they'll let it through because it's heading to Oman. The United States might not want to harm certain ships, especially if they're local allies. There's a real sea of oil tankers here, which is very striking. So let's go see them. Look at the patch we're seeing over here. This area we're looking at near Bandar Abbas. Large oil tankers can come in here. So when they tell one to turn around, that one has to turn around and get out of there. These ones we see here are from the Iranian fleet. They've been docked there for months. They definitely don't go out. They don't go out, they don't come in, they don't go anywhere else. Uma. What's going on with the oil tanker? Uma. Well, the Huma is also there, anchored. And it seems that it doesn't want to move anywhere. Let's check if Huma is under some kind of sanction, because that could be why. Or maybe it's waiting for the moment when the United States lets its guard down and sneak in. I figure that if there isn't a ceasefire, and if the situation continues as it is, at any moment there's going to be an attack on an oil tank. Uma. Folks, could Uma be under sanctions? You're watching Estrategias Militares live as we ask you this question. If you're enjoying the content, please leave your likes and comments. Now we're going to show images from Lebanon in a few seconds. Don't miss it. Of what's happening. Uma. Well, Uma isn't her real name. That's the first problem we see. The name is fake. Uma's name. The real name. Hafnia Ametis. Flags of Singapore. Operator Hafnia Limited. 345,000 barrels of oil. It does not appear on public sanctions lists. Where did Uma take on cargo that is anchored like this, then they won't let it leave? It doesn't look good, huh? We're looking now. The list of ships from last night has been changed. And there are changes, huh? There are 2 blockade zones. One zone is the one we see here of Oman. Bandarejas, all this area here. And another pre-blockade before entering the Strait of Hormuz. This area we see here. So we might think, let's go to the map, that there are 2 boundary areas for that blockade. One would be this one we're going to see now. First line we're going to draw. Here it is, red line. Second line we're going to draw. When the ships enter this zone, they are examined. And many of them decide not to continue or stay in an intermediate zone. That's the one we're seeing there. Since this is precisely this group, we're seeing that almost all or practically all of them are sanctioned. If not, it's because they're anchored there. But the United States strategy might actually be smart. This is dealing a significant economic blow to Iran. They're already saying they don't have enough money to pay the salaries of the military and the Revolutionary Guard. If this continues like this for 3 weeks, they'll be left without a dime. Flag of Mali. Start advance. I don't think we saw this one yesterday. Let's take a look at it. tanker. Tres- 346,000 baht. Finoseni, 1998. 3-point name changes. Flag of Mali, medium risk. It is not censored. But it's a ticking time bomb. Yeah, 1998. 1998. This ship shouldn't be in the water. Super old. Very, very old. It's next to another one. Apparently, there's another tanker that's bunkering it, transferring fuel from one ship to the other. John Tai. Check this one out. We watched one with a similar name last night. Let's check this one out. We're live. $228 meters. 500,000 barrels. It's not listed, but it's high risk. Look here. Others are once again transferring fuel from one ship to another. Kate, for example, Kate is also bunkering. Oh my, look at the state of this one. It looks bad, huh? Well, doesn't seem like it's not sanctioned. A lot of name changes, but it's not sanctioned. It has ties to Iran and Russia, but it's not sanctioned. This one is new. That one is gas. Primo 3. Let's go see it. Primo 3. It doesn't appear to be sanctioned. Old ship 1999. We see that there are ships that overlap, some sanctioned and some not. So it's quite a challenging job for the United States Navy. This is much more complicated than the situation in Venezuela. In Venezuela, the number of ships was limited to about 20. Here we're talking about more than 60 ships to monitor. Directly and indirectly, more than 200 ships. It's authenticity, it's madness. It's absolute madness. Let's go to Lebanon. What's happening in Lebanon? EDF video. Litani. 5 divisions pushing north of the Litani River. Netanyahu, who has spoken. He has been saying, we're smashing Iran. Smashing. Estado. Let's look for it. La batalla. The big battle right now is in Lebanon. The battle is currently in a city. We'll watch videos, see images, and review a lot of current information. Family, as always, your likes are important. Let's share the live stream. The ceasefire is still being discussed, but Israel continues its actions for now. In fact, they've given the order to eliminate all Hezbollah members as soon as possible. Where are we? Here. The first thing we have to pay attention to in the great battle currently being fought against Hezbollah is the terrain. This territory we see here is Israeli territory. It is at a lower elevation compared to Lebanon. What we're seeing here are the mountains that overlook this Israeli area. These mountains that we see here. Marun al-Ras is the hill we're looking at here. And Israel, with one of its divisions, launched a frontal attack from its territory, crossing into the interior, crossing through this area with a line of tanks going up the hill. First, it had been swept by the Air Force, destroyed with artillery, taking this high position and observing the Bin Jebel Valley. This one we're seeing here. By the way, the information we're giving is not information that endangers any military operation. It's information that is public. Also, this part of the operation has already happened. That is, the first step took place in the first days of the war. To take Mount al-Ras, the one we see here, and set up a firing position over the whole city. That was the first point. What happened next? Well, let's mark it better so people can see it and understand it this way. Let's paint it blue so you can see Israel there. There it is. Israel takes that position. From that position, it does the following. Gracias. To initially avoid hand-to-hand combat inside the city. Thank you. Clearly, Yaron has to be taken. This is already destroyed. Yaron, this town has already been taken and destroyed. All terrorist infrastructure. And so, from there, what they do is this. Ein Bel is taken, and they begin to turn. A circle is made from the starting position. That's what Israel does. We're going to keep it here. We keep that circle, and now you'll see why. Now we mark where there are still Hezbollah forces fighting. Which area does Hezbollah still have a presence in? The one we see over there. There it is. Why this way? Israel descends the hill but doesn't enter the village. It moves down through this area here. It stays undercover in this area and then goes back up to take the high ground in that other area. This one we're looking at. From here, it once again has control over what's directly ahead. The war in Lebanon is a tactical one. It's a war that, unlike Gaza, which is all flat with very few hills, there is a hill in the north, in the Jabalia area, which was quickly taken precisely to gain the high ground advantage. And then they moved down the backside to cut off the enemy's retreat route. So we could say that, yes, this area was probably taken or cut off around here as well. And this high ground area we see here was probably taken as well. This point here is key. This one we're looking at. Now, why is this so important for Israel? Why is this place so important? It's the headquarters of the command. ¿Por qué why?
Because it's Hezbollah's.
This is where Nasrallah gave that speech threatening Israel, in that stadium. He showed up there years ago.
You already know that he's dead.
And it's a place that strategically, as I said, is important. Because, look, from this area they can launch artillery, drones, rockets. They can attack in every possible way. A border area where you have Israeli population centers all around. Look. Let's highlight the number of population centers there are in this area, so you can see for yourself. Imagine an infiltration or an assault like what happened on October 7th, launched from Lebanon against these cities. Cities that wouldn't be able to defend themselves, that would be alone for hours, even days, in very difficult terrain to fight in. The IDF would be in an even worse situation than in Gaza. If October 7 had happened in Lebanon, it would have been much worse than in Gaza. The enemy's capabilities would have been doubled by the terrain. They could have hidden anywhere, taken entire towns hostage, and created real chaos. Just look at that line we see there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 6 towns. And we could keep adding more. Here we could keep adding another one, 7. And the 2 we have here. These people were done for. It's like we say in Spain. These people were militarily helpless in the face of a surprise attack by Hezbollah. It all would have happened in minutes. First, a mega attack launched with rockets, with mortars, followed by a massive assault all over that area. Israel couldn't defend them. And look, the type of terrain there is no joke. Hezbollah was assembling a large army here to cross to the other side. Let's look at some footage. Let's go. What's going on in Lebanon now? Launchers are still being destroyed, both mobile launchers and fixed launchers under bunkers. Vehicles as well. Military personnel from Hezbollah. Fortified positions in civilian houses continue to be attacked. Buildings, factories, warehouses. From the air, Israel is unstoppable. It doesn't let up militarily for even a minute. How are they doing it on the ground? destroying, clearing the way, knocking down. They're turning southern Lebanon into Gaza. I'm not going to get into the debate about whether that's justifiable or not. I've already explained it many times. I'm not going to explain it or try to justify something that's obvious. There is terrorist infrastructure in the houses right next to the Lebanon-Israel border. And that whole area has been colonized, I'm serious, colonized by Iran. It's an Iranian province. That's all there is. Images. Look at that explosion. There we can even see the ammunition burning. It's not Israel's fault that Iran has colonized Lebanon. It's not their fault. Yesterday we were talking about how, I think for the first time in history, Lebanon and Israel were meeting to negotiate a ceasefire or a joint action plan against Hezbollah. Hezbollah is concerned and has been launching rockets since this morning, in waves of 20, 25, 30 rockets at a time, without any fear. They keep doing their thing and stay on their path. And their course is to devastate Lebanon for as long as possible. We see more images. This one's from a drone, 2006. Says, Mil says, in this house, Israeli soldiers died during the fighting in 2006. Well, it has been destroyed. It took years, many years, but it has been destroyed. The story is there. In 2006, many mistakes were made in that war, and there were a lot of casualties. Now the Israeli military doctrine has completely changed. Technology has also helped a lot to turn all of this into dust. You see it right there. Mega explosion inside. So you say, gracias. There, Lieutenant Colonel Roy Klein and 7 soldiers were killed. Thank you. Memory today. Rest a little more. Benchevel. It's the same. The population we're talking about. Keep in mind, Roy Klein's story is not just any story. He is a hero of Israel. Why? The year was 2006. Roy Klein was fighting in Benchevel along with other soldiers. Recruited in 1994 from the Paratrooper Brigade. They created Diego's Reconnaissance Unit, an elite unit of the Golani Brigade. They were supposed to carry out raids against the Hezbollah guerrillas. His unit was one of those selected. He was a leader. The year was 2006. In a Hezbollah ambush, they threw a hand grenade over the wall that separated the soldiers from Hezbollah, from Klein. Klein threw himself onto the live grenade. taking the blast with his body. The explosion of that grenade. To protect his comrades. They think, those who were there, that while he was jumping onto that grenade, plane was reciting the Shema Yisrael. The same soldiers say it, the ones who were there, that in the first few minutes while he was dying, before he died, he gave the order to focus on another lieutenant who had been wounded and another wounded soldier who also died. Then he handed his encrypted radio to another officer who took command of the force, and he died. Family, we are live right now on Estrategia Militares. One more night, one more day. What stories? Each one of them has a story to tell. Each one of them does. Here's an update. More videos are coming. Prepare for what you'll see from Hezbollah. We're staying in Lebanon. But let's go through the Superchats, because we have a lot, and I don't want us to forget today, nor let it slip by us. So let's get to it. Let's see. Your Superchat, family, your comments, what you're saying, what you're contributing, it's always super valuable about what's happening. Now I'm going to tell you as well. Before starting the super chats, I'll explain what's happening. There are 13 days, 13 or 14 days for the arrival of the USS Boxer and of the aircraft carrier Yorgos. We have to make time. If that includes them meeting again in Islamabad, send a plane, let J.D. Vance go and take another trip, it's all right. If that includes maybe Israel having to stop pressuring Lebanon for a week, it's all right. The result is what you're about to see. It will be found at the story's end. Or they hand over the uranium. They stop enriching uranium. The Estados, and the oil comes under control of the United States, or Iran will return to the Stone Age. The United States doesn't care anymore. They're selling more oil than ever, 5.2 million barrels. Thank you. Daily. Or per month. Daily or per month? I think it's daily, because 23 supertankers go there to load. And they've made it. In short, he's making a lot of money. Trump is making money hand over fist. He doesn't care about the Persian Gulf thing. It doesn't bother him. Anita, Shalom, strategy. No one can stop Iran's executions. It's heartbreaking and terrible. Everyone knows it. We don't know about the Pope. Let's turn to the Pope while we talk about this. Anita. We don't know if Leo XIV is going to go to Iran also to visit those there who are going to be executed. There's the Pope arriving in camp. The Pope isn't a politician, but he's treated as a head of state. He's the head of state of the Vatican. Hey, the band sounds awful, huh? Let's see what's happening in the last frame. There's a scuffle. Whoa, those two up there. Let's see what's going on there. They're pushing each other. Look, okay. It's a mess. Honestly, I'm going to say something. The African countries, let me see how I can explain this so it doesn't sound bad because people might misinterpret it. The issue of protocol security. When we talk about dictatorships, generals, and a bunch of strange people wandering around, it's a real mess. And that's one of the examples. An escort practically coming to blows with a soldier. That's something that happens, right? Well, Leon is in Africa. Someone is going to go to Iran to stop executions. Leon is going to go, he's going to land there. Karachi is going to welcome him. The Christian brothers, as they say, who fire missiles in memory of Christ. They even went as far as to launch it. To remember Jesus Christ suffering on the cross. Can you believe it? Iran even launched a missile saying it was for Jesus Christ. Thank you so much, Javier. Thank you so much, Angel. Javier, once again, is around here. Gary, I love you, strategies. I hope it's for Israel. I'm a bot, I don't exist. So, love for Israel. Trump shouldn't pressure Israel to stop the attacks against Hezbollah. Israel must finish off Hezbollah in Israel. No, Rudel, look, I think in this analysis what's happening is they're trying to buy time. 5 divisions are the ones currently operating inside Lebanon, as we saw in that video we were showing here. I think it's a pretty ambitious operation for 5 divisions. I think they'd still need 3 more, which would be another 30,000 soldiers, more or less. Keep in mind that, more or less, according to the military doctrine of Israel, I think it's about 10,000, more or less. And 10,000 to 20,000 soldiers. Let's say about 15,000. Because what they also do is combine many brigades from different groups, and each one has its own tasks. That is, it's not 15,000 fighting on the front line, but there are intelligence, engineering, logistics, communications, artillery, mechanized units. Everything is there. These ones, we see here, notice that in the most important point, which is the area we're talking about, Yashemona, we're talking about Beit Jail, this whole area. That's why we're mentioning. I'm going to move the chart up a bit. These are units that have been in Gaza. In other words, these are units with proven combat experience for almost 3 years now. By October, it will be 3 years since October 7th, and they already have a great deal of experience. But there are also units that have been fighting for 3 years. And they also need to rest. Keep in mind that just because there's a ceasefire in Lebanon, it doesn't mean they're going to leave Lebanon. Imagine that tomorrow a ceasefire is declared. We stay where we are. The line stays there. We rest for a week or 2. We rotate personnel. We bring in new people. We send some people out so they can rest, go home, see their families, and come back refreshed. 1 or 2 weeks later. And we make another push. We maintain the security zone, and yes, Hezbollah will rearm. In the northern area of the position, yes, they will rearm. But they lack air capability. They don't have it. So, it's going to be impossible for them there. Watch the Hezbollah video we're about to show in a few seconds. By the way, the United States has sent a delegation to Somaliland. Thank you. Somaliland has offered its territory for the United States to operate from. so that if they need to attack the Houthis, they can launch the attacks from there. We can't miss this opportunity because attacks can be launched from the Somaliland area to provide security for the Red Sea. The Red Sea, which according to Iran will be closed in the next few hours if the United States does not lift the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. We'll see what happens with that. And we also have to stay very alert. It's one thing for them to come in, another to leave. Jesse, that's how it is. From the point of view of the United States, they're interested in them coming in, loading up, and when they leave, the oil is taken from them and brought to the United States or somewhere else to sell it under the name of the United States. Iran already has its production capacity very limited because it doesn't have any reserve capacity. When the oil reserve tanks are full on Car Island, you can't put any more in. If you can't put any more in, you have to stop production. If production stops, you lose money. A day without pumping is a day without earning. That's right. Sol Calderon, thank you very much. Thank you, Sol, for that super chat. Thank you for everything. Bless you. I laugh at you. Thanks. Javier, thank you very much, my friend. Let them have guaranteed oil sales in the Strait. That's best. Of course, Monique. Invite Antonini. I don't know who Antonini is. Cudelia, thank you so much. Greetings from Puerto Rico. Wishing you success. Shasha. Israeli Eclipse Restaurant, Gibraltar. Okay. Gilbar, and Sally. Okay. Let's see this. Great super chat. Thanks, Rene, for the reminder. Pay attention to this video. We have it ready. Here we always come very well prepared. Pay attention to this video. Terrorist attack. Multiple. Group linked to Iran. Ashraf al-Jamin. 2 attacks on Jewish sites. One in Macedonia, in a synagogue, and another in a restaurant in Munich, Germany. Media. Video published by them. Incendiary bomb. And there we see their logo. Their logo is the typical one used by all this rabble. Precision rifle. Dragunov. Flag. But just an everyday one. And more of the same. Per Europa. He says this war is not his war. They carried out an attack in Macedonia, another one in Germany. But this is not Europe's war. Europe has nothing to do with this. Europe looks the other way. Chita Fuentes. Thank you very much, Chita. You really have to realize where things stand. Not all this. You have to realize where all of this is happening. And what's happening? There are terrorist groups loose in Europe, now openly attacking Jewish communities. But the alert level is not raised. By the way, before we leave Lebanon, please don't laugh too much, just a bit. Amal, which is Hezbollah's ideological wing. First it was Amal, and then it was Hezbollah. Amal mourns the death of one of its veterans. Here's the creature. He was 80 years old when he went to meet his creator. A whole 80 years. Amazing. They're gonna kick people out at this rate from the nursing home to fight. A few days ago, we wanted to mention something about the Strait of Hormuz. This image is very good. You remember we were talking about the depth where ships can operate? In this case, tankers. The red lines you see. Let's zoom in over here. These are lines where it's not safe for tankers to travel. Even so, look, because Arak Island is right there, and it's marked in red. That's why Iran is sending ships through there. There's only a narrow passage to cross. And if they don't go through there, they could have a problem. If they go through there, they have to pay. And if they don't pay, they'll get sunk. Just like that. So take a look at what the situation is. By the way, those supertankers that have crossed and are heading to Car Island are going along the red line. Why? Why are they going along the red line? Does anyone know why? RHN. This is Samar. Alicia. Agios are following the red line. Does anyone know why? How is that possible? It's the red line they can't sail through because it's too shallow. Because they're unloaded. They're unloaded. This is what we're seeing. It means they're empty. If loaded, they couldn't follow the red line. So now we know they're not loaded. They're going to get loaded, but they're not loaded. Donald Trump, who said, China is very happy that Joe, he opens the Strait of Hormuz permanently. It's not open. I do it for them too, and for the world. The situation, it can't happen again. They have agreed not to send weapons to Iran. President Xi. We'll give each other a big hug when I get there in a few weeks. We are working together in a very professional way, very appropriately, and very well. Remember, we are very good at fighting, if we have to do it, better than anyone else. Trump is going to visit China soon. China is sending weapons to Iran. Imagine Lebanon. Something fell yesterday. It's a projectile. Pay attention to the video. Hezbollah. It could be a Chinese-made cannon. They are using this to fire at populated areas, schools, sports fields, houses. But neither the Pope nor Pedro Sánchez say anything. Macron even less. The European Union says this isn't their war. Let's see. Photo of 9 Qasem. We see the structure that has been created. It's a reinforced concrete structure, a kind of small fortified hut. Gracias, concealed in the vegetation. Thanks. We can see the photos of Mokjaba, Nasrallah, and Qasem hanging there. This is ridiculous. These people appear hardcore fanatics. And over here we see the cannon. A 122 millimeter cannon. The projectile is hard to intercept. They're taking measurements for the launch. What we see on the left side is a rope that's used to fire it. It's fired from the outside. It's a towed artillery piece. That means they have to bring it there with a vehicle. They've boxed it in there, and they've built a sort of bunker for it. Take a look at how they've designed this. To lift the cannon. And there we see something that's also very interesting. They have extended range. They can reach up to 21 kilometers. And there we hear a bit of audio. There they are firing that artillery piece. They fire about 3 shots or 4 quick shots in a series of rapid shots. Curiously, we know they're operating at the edge of their range because of something very striking. There's a firing technique with the artillery that starts firing at the same target. You start firing with the barrel at an angle, a greater angle, and you start lowering it. If the target you're firing at was within range, close, that is, if it was near, within those 20 kilometers, they could start firing at a higher angle and then lower the barrel. Projectiles hit at the same time or in quicker succession over an area. But that's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing here is that they don't change. They don't even adjust their aim. Notice that when the cannon fires, it moves. They don't readjust their aim, so they're firing, just firing at random. This could fall in an open area, in open fields. It could fall on a house. Donde le dedo es donde le dan. And then they record the sequence both from inside and from outside. And this too, it has to catch our attention. Let's watch it now. The outside view. The shell casing is being extracted. Thank you. He doesn't even clean the barrel inside. I mean, he doesn't even stop to clean it. They must have had, obviously, some kind of military training to use this kind of ammunition. Most likely, Iran has given it to them. Now let's view the image from outside. We can see that it's in a wooded area. It's a kind of shed that's built there, reinforced concrete, more or less hidden under the trees. Can this be detected? Can the launch be detected? Yes. Se puede detectar. Using radar, the trajectory of the launch can be detected. Knowing the type of ammunition, more or less, Israel can calculate. And surely with a drone, they see the heat signature, because when this fires, it produces a lot of heat, in addition to the smoke it produces. By the second or third shot, a drone locates you and destroys it. That's exactly why they fire 3 shots at most. And they run away, because they know that piece of artillery is going to be destroyed. It would be interesting to take a look. Let's do that. These people's videos always provide lots of information. I always say it. There's a lot of info. There's an image that's very interesting here. Notice that in it, adios. They have a mini arsenal, which is a cabinet. Good grief. When they get up, they have 3 projectiles. They have just 3 projectiles and won't fire anymore. What really stands out, the projectiles are in excellent condition and appear brand new. That is, this material or these artillery pieces, this ammunition, it's not old, or it's very well preserved. Veces, unlike other images we've seen repeatedly, you can see that they are better preserved. Which means they must have received material. Is this from China? That they say it could be a Russian-made cannon, a D-30, or a Chinese-made one. I think it's called a Type 86. We don't know. It's not known. But it's obvious they have some artillery capability. They can use it against targets already inside Lebanon. That is, they have to launch it from north of the Litani River. The military training they have is quite poor. Greetings, Estrategia. Thank you for your program. The military training is quite mediocre. It may seem excellent. I think it's mediocre. First of all, it's an artillery piece. You can't just take it anywhere. As soon as you use it there 4 or 5 times, they're going to find your position and destroy you. So it's a vehicle that you're going to lose that artillery piece. Greetings, Estrategias. Thank you for bringing us all this information. I had a question about whether the news of the attacks against the Pope in Algeria is true. Attacks on the Pope in Algeria? I have an idea. He was the retired cop from Breaking Bad who recently died. That makes sense now. Blessings, Estrategias. God bless the US, Israel, and Cuba. Take care. Watch out for Cuba. Watch out for Cuba. United States. It could be working on a plan right now. To liberate Cuba. Right now, the White House could be working on the liberation of Cuba. Cuba, next stop. Next stop for POTUS. Cuba, for POTUS. Cuba, a stop. Did you hear what POTUS said?
About that cyber attraction.
We do this for them. Are they what?
They talk about cyber attacks. They've done it to us. We've done it to them.
You know.
Well, when was the last time we did a cyber?
I'm not the law. They said, not going to tell you.
China. When was the last time we had an attack from China? A cyber attack from China.
Simply wealth.
They do it to us, and we do it to them.
I see this for a long time.
We do this. I'm not going to say it. We do this for. Is this going to be discussed with Xi? Is Donald Trump going to talk about China's cyber attacks against the United States, against the interests of the United States? The journalist asked POTUS. ¿Cómo es? It's, well, this is pretty big, but, well, it is what it is. Es como es.
China's China.
Es China. It has never been easy.
But we're doing great with China.
But we're doing great with China.
I'm the toughest person in China.
Yeah, I'm the toughest on China. Anyone in the world. One moment. I'll step. POTUS is speaking there. I'll stand here. Sorry, POTUS.
I put 100% tariffs on China.
I've put 100% tariffs on China.
No tambes, 90
Chinese cars here,
chantache.
not anywhere in the country. C, if you look at Europe, yes,
Myris, you look at Europe,
they are flooded with Chinese cars. That's something that's true.
and it's killing their car companies.
And they're taking down their car companies.
And they're getting loaded with cars.
There's no one tougher than me.
No olvides, le he puesto un 22 a fentanyl.
A lo que han hecho con el fentanyl. I imposed a 20% tariff because of what they've done with fentanyl.
Para for what they've done with fentanyl.
Cyber warfare. Cyber warfare is one of the important points in this whole story. They love to talk about it. They love to comment on it. What's going on with the US economy? This matters. We're at war.
Meses, like it was 2 months ago. Como lo fue hace dos fue. Like it was 2 months ago.
He was very close to getting a nuclear weapon.
Tuviéramos dice. He says
We had oil.
that we'd be selling oil, that oil would be at 92 or whatever it is.
He says, we're selling oil at 91 or whatever it costs.
Instead of 200.
Instead of $200,
Because a lot of people said, oh, it'll be 200.
many people were saying it would be $200 a barrel.
Then he's doing very well.
He says, I think we're doing very well.
Tal vez la gente assumed that we're going to win this soon.
He says, I think we're going to win this very soon.
Militarily, totally.
He says, we've crushed them militarily.
The only thing they have is the Gulf, and I think
All they have is the Persian Gulf. And now, as they call the Strait,
no sé cómo se sienten. And I think now, I don't know how they feel.
Well, I mean, that's what barrel 50%. I'm saying its big gap has changed. I know it's only been about a month or so, but oil prices are up by 50%.
he says the price of oil is 50% higher.
You ain't at that bar now.
He says the stock market is having a tough time in the first 15 days.
Stocks are
You're
still
right, but
up.
they're not up. I thought, I mean, honestly.
You thought it was going to
He says, honestly, he says, I thought this was going to be more. And he was willing to do it. Trump was willing to go up to $200.
To stop a nuclear weapon.
Okay, to stop nuclear weapons that
Then our
are used against
pace.
the
You
deceased fats.
can, or any other in the Middle East.
They go to anyone in the Middle East.
Take out the Middle East.
They plan to steamroll the Middle East. To stop them,
It was certainly worthwhile being much
it has been quite worth it.
higher than it is right now. If you told me that we were going to be at only 92,
If you had told me oil was only going to be $91 a barrel, $2 a barrel, $92,
estado muy sorprendido.
I would be very surprised. And you know what?
Very happy.
I'm very happy
Come dropping down very big as soon as it's over. And I
because it's going to fall very quickly when this is over. And this is going to happen soon. Donald Trump says this is going to happen soon. And this is going to end quickly. You think this will end soon? You hear the strategic militaries think it will end very quickly? Commander Munir, with a stick and a nuclear missile in the other hand. Should Israel trust this negotiation? Two countries that want to destroy Israel, Pakistan and Iran. I don't think this is a negotiation. I think it's an alliance. I hope everyone draws their own conclusions. Family, we're live and we need a lot more likes right now. Where are you joining us from tonight? Strange night. Very strange. We'll see what happens. Everything is at stake right now. Anything can happen. By the way, there is confirmation that Iran secretly used the Chinese spy satellite to attack American bases in the Middle East, according to the Financial Times. Do you remember those satellite images that were coming out? People were talking about and seeing planes at military bases in Jordan, the Emirates, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. Well, that satellite was marking targets to attack Iran's missiles and drones. China gave them access. Speaking of satellites and images, pay attention to this one. Take a look at what you're about to see here. Does anyone remember this place? 40 kilometers outside of Isfahan, an airstrip for farmers to use. ¿Qué haces? ¿Qué flights with small planes? What are you doing? Two C-130 planes and MH-6 Little Birds helicopters were destroyed there. And perhaps the most important rescue operation in the history of the United States of America took place. Now Iran has cordoned off that airstrip. They've built a containment wall around the perimeter where those aircraft exploded. And the runway has been filled with holes and pits so it can be used again. Let's take a look. There you can see the rows of holes visible in the satellite image so that the United States can land there again. The runway that was 40 kilometers from Isfahan that could have served as a bridgehead in the operation to recover the uranium. The holes don't land. Let's go now. Here we go. Natanz. According to information from the Atomic Energy Organization, the uranium needed to build more than 10 nuclear warheads could be divided between Isfahan and Natanz. In the mountains of Natanz, there is an underground facility where a large part or an important part of the uranium could have been taken as well. Here we see the entrances, reinforced with blast protection against bunker-busting ammunition. Then they are completely covered. The intention is that all this earth that was removed from the mountain is put back on top to cover and cover and cover so they can't fire munitions to penetrate that mountain. The mountain of Natanz. Good. Let's go look. Could the United States of America launch a ground operation to recover the uranium? You already know that the B-2Os bombed something down here. If you don't remember, we'll show you. Year 2003. Look at what was hidden under a layer of sand until just a few months ago. This whole complex that was built here was the first stage, the first story. The concealment of Iran's nuclear program. Natam, a reactor supposedly for research. Like the one in Isfahan, where it was being built and it was. Enriching uranium to practically weapons-grade levels. Notice how back in those days, in the year 2023, there might not have been munitions yet. Like the famous KBUs, those gigantic ones that go in and blow everything up. Iran decided to cover up the facility with dirt. A few million tons, and nothing happened here. See, now everything is hidden. With the arrival of that type of ammunition, that was the centrifuge area, Iran knows it has a problem. That's why they decide to open a second facility, which is probably connected by a tunnel underneath to the one we're seeing here, the one we just showed on the channel, which has been built. And that way they protect themselves against attacks from the United States of America. Notice how. It's a superstructure. Notice how well made the entrance is, with a support arch to withstand and reinforce against explosions. Do you see that type of metal reinforcement? That's right here. That's been built. It's for assembling later. Gracias. What you see in this image. Thank you. Let's look for it around here. Here we are. Let's look for it. I saw him just a moment ago. Next, they place a slab on top. Here it is. See, this is a truck that's carrying one of those slabs to put them in place. In those places. Cranes are used. There are cranes here that lift each one of those vaulted structures to then cover them up. Let's get to the point. Can the United States of America launch an operation in Natanz? The chat thinks Natanz can be attacked by land. Thanks for the super chat and all the info. Hopefully, Cuba, it has been liberated. Thank you, Estrategias, for this info. I was wondering if the news is valid. I'm not sure. I have no idea about the Algeria thing. The United States is planning military action against Cuba. You know what he thinks better than anyone. Honestly, it's a mystery to me. It's not that hard. Let's see something. Let's see if Iran has been clever. Not far from Natanz, there is a military airport. Soviet-era anti-aircraft missiles. There they are. Drones. Attack drones. That's great. It's the first time we found drones. A historic moment. Control tower. This place is interesting. You can see we found drones here, which is very interesting, by the way.
I want to explain something to you.
This circle we see here is a classic distribution of Soviet anti-aircraft weapons from the Cold War. They form a circle because of the anti-aircraft missile battery. It can fire through 360 degrees, unlike modern anti-aircraft missiles, which come in containers. Or in containers. Tube type or boxed, they're launched upwards, and when they're up, they head to one side or the other. It's not like that. Each missile covers a vector, meaning each missile is like it's watching over a point. For example, this missile we're looking at here. It would be covering threats that come from this area. You see, that line I just drew, that missile would cover threats from that area. This missile we see over here, we don't know where it's pointing, but here you can clearly see its direction. Let's mark it. It covers threats coming toward this area. More or less. You see, it's that way. This one we see here, more this way. It is, and a shape begins to form. 360 degrees of protection. The problem with this is that you only have one missile to protect each vector. Then you have to reload, you have to go back to rearm the whole battery, bring a truck, mount the missiles on the launchers again. Before launching in, what we see here right in the center is the classic layout. It's a radar. That's a radar. Another radar could be placed here. So it's a place where they constantly move the radar. This could be it. Control center, or the vehicle to control the battery. Here we see a power generation unit, which could explain the cables on the ground, because this type of unit is connected by cables. These are very old. It's very basic, and this type is no longer really a danger. Anti-aircraft systems against an air defense, against a defense, against air defenses, that is, countermeasures and electronic warfare. They're very vulnerable to electronic warfare, and these radars can be blinded. It's nice to hear them say it. Tell that to Venezuela, specifically. Well, looking around here, interesting things. Do we have bunkers or not? It's not a yes or no. There should be some. Let's try to examine whether these are bunkers. It's very likely there's something underneath here. Over there, yes, because you can see the entrances. Look at the entrances. So here is a missile launch installation. Wow, and it's also huge. Check it. Look at how the bunkers are hidden around here. I guess that's where they kept the missiles for the anti-aircraft battery, or where the drones were stored. Drones that we've seen right here. Look at the line of drones we're seeing here. It's Natam. We are in Natam, near the nuclear perimeter of Natam. It's an airport that could be used, if necessary, for an operation. Here we see another anti-aircraft artillery position was not in use at that time. And this is called Kashan Airport. We see Kashan Airport here.
What I think it's a radar. Yes, this is a radar. Adios. This is a more modern anti-aircraft battery, a Buk M2 type goodbye. Also Soviet in origin, an Iranian adaptation. They have a model over there that they manufacture themselves. Goodbye. And over here is probably the command and control area where the bosses are inside. Let's take a look over here as well. This is the entrance. It's fortified, see? They always leave cars outside. That always happens. And this is the quarry. From here, they'll get all the material for building and so on. This area we see here is probably made up of missile factories and missile component plants. All of this is always close to the launch sites. They build everything. They build the entire program nearby. Silo, launchers, vehicles, everything. And this generates electricity. That's the power plant, which also runs on fuel. Water treatment plant. And what we're seeing here is part of the military support for Natam, because Natam, as we've said, where that airport is right here. That is, there's a distance. Of 22 kilometers. I suppose, or I assume, that Iran must have destroyed this runway to avoid the problem of the United States of America being able to get there. But well, there are options. There are always options. You can always find a place or something that can be done. Always. We see the state, maybe from an attack during the previous war. When is this image from? November 2025. No, it wasn't destroyed. This area wasn't destroyed. November 2025. So this image is after the 12-day war, and no specific operation was carried out here. Be careful with this spot. Another unknown place. We just found it. This is a place for possibly anti-aircraft defense or missile launching. We see the entrance to the bunkers. Here we see more fortified entrances here, and over here as well. It looks like an anti-air defense complex, but we don't have confirmation. This we're seeing here is definitely military grade, but there hasn't been any recent activity, at least not in November. It could be for anti-aircraft cannons, it could be for anti-aircraft missiles, but we don't see much else. That's the situation. Either they give him the uranium or they're going to go after him. Victoria, good evening. Blessings to your community. I believe the United States could reach Natam by land with support from planes, missiles, and drones. Why? From what you showed, everything is very well covered. It's hard to get uranium out. The Iranians aren't ready yet. Well, they're playing their cards. They're playing at home. Thank you, Veronica. Iran is playing at home. Iran's home game. It's important for them. Besides, it's easy. They play at home. They're doing well. Thank you so much for those memberships you've given us. Now let's take a look at them. 50 memberships and 10. Thank you for helping and contributing to the community. Thank you very much, really. It's interesting. All of this and everything that's happening is super mega interesting. Military options. There are always some. There's always a military option. You can always resort to some kind of military option. What's more, the United States has a lot of information about all those areas. Rene, thank you so much for those memberships. R. Duran, thanks for the 50 memberships too. Amen. Thank you so much for that support. Family, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining us live, and we'll see you in the next program here on Estrategias Militares. Best regards.